Elijah was 9 when he first started hearing the whispers. He lived in a quiet town surrounded by forests so thick that even the sun had trouble pushing through the trees. Their little wooden house stood at the edge of the woods, close enough that Elijah could hear the rustle of branches in his bedroom at night. He had always been different. He didn't like playing outside. He didn't like being touched. Other kids avoided him, but he didn't mind. Solitude didn't scare him. It was silence that did. Because silence meant the voices would come back. They always came at the same time, 3:03 a.m., not a minute before, not a second after. He would wake up suddenly, cold sweat on his forehead, and lie there, listening. It started with a low hum, like wind slipping through a crack in the wall. Then the words, Elijah, soft, familiar, wrong. Once. His mom stroked his hair and said it was just bad dreams. His dad laughed and said, "That's what happens when you read too much before bed." They said it was bass, but it didn't. Each night the voices grew louder, and so did the darkness. It was thicker now, heavier. The corners of his room no longer ended in shadows, but in something deeper, like a mouth, like a tunnel. And the closet door. It was always cracked open, no matter how many times he shut it before sleeping. Then came the drawings. He would wake up to find scraps of paper on his desk, drawings he didn't remember making. Crude black sketches of him sleeping, eyes wide open. In one, he was floating above his bed. In another, his closet was open wide and something was crawling out. He tried to hide them, to throw them away, but every morning there were more. Elijah began to sleep with the lights on. It didn't help. The whispers didn't care about light. They were already inside. Soon, the dreams changed too. He found himself in the forest, always at night, always foggy. The trees were tall and crooked, their branches curling like claws. Sometimes they moved, sometimes they screamed. In the center of the forest was a cabin. It looked burned, its roof half collapsed, the door barely hanging on one hinge. He never wanted to go inside, but the dream forced him. Each night he got a little closer. One night he reached the front step. That's when he heard it. "Come inside, Elijah. You need to remember." Inside, the air was choking with dust. On the walls were dozens, hundreds of drawings. Every single one was of him. Some were old, like they'd been there for years. Some showed things that hadn't happened yet. In the center stood an old mirror. Its surface cracked like spider webs. Elijah stepped closer. His reflection was wrong. It moved slightly out of sync. It smiled when he didn't. It spoke. "I am what they hid from you. I am the part they tried to bury." The glass shattered. Black hands burst through, grabbing his arms, pulling him toward the darkness behind the mirror. He woke up screaming. After that night, Elias stopped speaking. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep unless someone was in the room. His mother cried when she found him one morning sitting in front of the closet, eyes red, whispering over and over, "They're getting through. The cracks are wider. They're getting through." Doctors were called. Psychologists, therapists. They gave him pills. They asked questions. But Elijah just stared at the walls and whispered things that made no sense. There's more than one. They wear my face sometimes. The cabin is real. I've seen it. I think it remembers me. They need me to open the last door. Then came the night of June 21st, the summer solstice, the longest night of the year. Eli's mother woke to the sounds of footsteps in the hallway. Light, slow, careful. She got up, expecting to find Eli outside his room again. But when she opened the door, the bed was empty. The room was cold. Not just cold, wrong, like the air wasn't alive anymore. The closet door was wide open, and inside was something else. Not a wall, not wood. It looked like a hole, a black, endless hole that breathed. She swore she felt it pulling at her, whispering things in a voice that sounded like her son. "Mom, I'm scared. I'm cold, please." She took a trembling step closer. Then she heard another voice from behind her. "That's not me." She turned, heart pounding. No one was there. She looked back, the hole was gone. The closet was just a closet again. Eli was never found. The police said he must run away into the woods. That maybe a bear took him. But there was no blood, no tracks, no sign he ever left the room. For a while, the town grieved. People left flowers, lit candles. Then, life moved on. But not for long, because a few months later, another child went missing, and then another. And in each of their rooms, their parents found strange drawings of Elijah, smiling, standing in the cabin of the woods. Now children whisper about the mirror boy, a legend they pass in the quiet corners of school hallways. They say if you wake up at 3:03 a.m. and look in the mirror, Eli might be there. He won't hurt you at first. He will just smile. He might whisper your name. But if you answer, if you listen, they say he'll show you the cabin, and you'll never wake up again. So if you wake at 3:03, don't speak, don't move. And for the love of God, don't open the closet. Months passed. Most people forgot Elijah, but his mother didn't. She started seeing things, reflections that lagged behind, whispers that didn't stop when the lights turned on. At night, she swore the trees outside shifted closer to the house, inch by inch. Then she began to dream of the cabin too, but her dreams were different. She saw Eli sitting at a long table surrounded by other children with stitched mouths and bleeding eyes. She never looked up, just kept drawing, his finger bone, wide, skin peeling like paper. He wasn't a prisoner, he was becoming something else. In another town far away, a teenage boy named Mark found one of the drawings. It was folded inside a used library book he checked out on folklore. The paper was rough and smelled like ash. On it, a boy stood in front of a crooked cabin. The boy's face had been scratched out, but someone had written beneath it in shaky pencil. He's learning how to cross over. We showed him the way. He showed us what comes next. Mark thought it was a prank, until the dreams began. Until he woke up at 3:03 a.m., sweating, staring at the mirror across his room, and saw Elijah, smiling faintly, mouthing something Mark couldn't hear. He smashed the mirror the next day, but it didn't help. because that night the reflection returned, not in the mirror, but in his window. Back in Eli's old town, children began whispering about the cracked ones. They said the drawing was spreading, appearing in backpacks, in notebooks, even on walls in schools. You didn't draw them, they just showed up. Always of the cabin, always of Elia. And sometimes, if you touched the paper, it felt warm, like it had just been pulled from a mouth. A girl named Maddie found one pinned to the inside of her closet door. She burned it. The next night she went missing. The local librarian, Miss Green, began researching the history of the town. She uncovered old newspapers clipping from the 1800s. Reports of children vanishing, always around the solstice, always near the woods. One article mentioned the Mirror children who were born without shadows and returned to their dark parent beneath the roofs. The strangest article was dated June 21st, in 1865. It described a boy who claimed to be from the future, who spoke in a voice not made for human throats. Before he vanished, he scratched these words into the floor of the orphanage. Time loops there. The cabin remembers. It was alive before. I'll be him again. Miss Green died 2 days later. Her body was never found. Only her shoes, still warm, placed neatly in front of the mirror at the library. And now, Eli comes more often. Sometimes even adults see him. Brief flashes, his face in puddles, in the rearview mirrors, on phone screens when they go dark. A reflection that isn't quite yours, and always at the same time. 303. Some say he's no longer trying to pull others in. He's trying to get out. The cracks between the worlds are wider. Every dream, every mirror, every drawing, it's feeding him, teaching him. He was never alone. He was the first, but not the last. And others are learning too. Last warning. If you ever see a drawing of the cabin, don't touch it. If your reflection ever moves differently, don't look back. And if you wake at 3:03 a.m. and you hear your name whispered in your mother's voice, but she's asleep in the next room, then you've already let him in. And for the love of God, don't open your closet. Don't blink. Don't breathe. And whatever you do, don't smile back.